All right, I've got something new this time. First off, I'm trying out Tasigur. Tasigur is something that folks have been asking for a little while. So hopefully this is interesting to you. Basically, what I've done is I've taken Olaro and Edric, and they got married and had a child, and that child was the Tasigur deck. If you look at it, you'll see that most of the strategy and cards are basically could be found in either deck. There may not, in fact, be anything in this deck that isn't in one or the other, and for very good reason, because in each case we've selected the best cards to use from what I can tell, certainly from what I think. And so as a result, when you put something together that very closely resembles both decks, should have a deck that draws heavily from both sides. It would be interesting, perhaps, to try to build something specifically around Tassigur's ability to put cards in the graveyard. So maybe something with like a lot of reanimation effects. But I do not think that that's necessarily the best way to go because I don't like the fact that that relies on you actually spending the mana to play your commander, activate your commander, then you've got to somehow hit stuff, and then you've got to reanimate. I don't really feel super comfortable with that whole thing when I could just play a very controlling version that is more consistent, and that's just more my play style. So there are some things, of course, that I couldn't put in from either deck, depending on how you're looking at it. For example, I do not have Phyrexian Metamorph in here, which would be an Edric. I don't have Gilded Drake. There's a number of other cards you may spot that didn't make the cut. And of course, to play Edric, I have to put him in the main here. Also, there's a newer card, Rashmi Eternity's Keeper, I think it is. But that card is a card that I think if you're playing blue-green, unless you're playing creatureless, which would be very strange since you're playing green, but if you're playing blue-green, this card is a no-brainer. Put that card in your deck 100% of the time. So the fact that it's an elf is just even better. What it does is it draws a card when you play your first spell on either turn. So you will draw, for instance, on your opponent's turn, and you will draw for your first spell on your turn. So basically, once he's in play, you start drawing 3 cards per turn. That's nuts for a cheap creature elf. What's this? What is this? What in the world is this? This is absolutely not. I don't know what I don't know what that is. Oh, haha! I went way back in time. Okay, let's skip games up from today. How about that? So, I played 2-0 against Agogina Agogina Box. Anyway, in this game here, I actually had. So there's one thing missing from Tasigur that might jump out at you, and that card is Dark Confidant. Dark Confidant's not in here, but because I think that when you run Necro and Sylvan, and the only way to gain life is Umezawa's Jitte, or maybe Natural Order on your own card if you have to. I'm also running, of course, Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Ancient Tomb. There's so many ways for me to hurt myself, and I don't have the life gain of a Laurel. I don't think. Oh, also Birthing Pod, of course. I'm not certain that the deck can afford to run Confidant, especially because Confidant does not want to flip a Terastodon or a Karn, and I want to play those cards because they've got lots of Artifact Ramp, and of course they've got Natural Order. I feel like there might be too much risk in running Dark Confidant for it, and it may not be necessary anyway. Now, of course, Sylvan will not work if a Necropotence is in play because there's no draw step, but getting a Sylvan out means you've probably won the game. Getting a Necro means you've probably won the game. Getting both of them out isn't it, it doesn't matter. You've already won the game by definition. So the fact that they're not good as a pair is completely irrelevant. Either one of them is a game-winning card. So 2 mana win the game or 3 mana win the game. I'm going to play both. All right. So let's run through these games as quickly as I can, and hopefully we won't have a crash. So this guy's playing Olaro. So this is actually Tasigur against Olaro. And funny enough, I think you'll see that some of his cards mirror quite a few of the cards that I use in my deck. So I get first turn Bird. Second turn, I vamp during upkeep for Mishra's Workshop so that I can cast a Lantern and then Green Sun Zenith for 1. So I Zenith for 1 in order to specifically get Draga Tree Speaker. That way I've basically fetched up a Soul Ring here, and I've got Workshop up and running. So I go ahead and charge up my Soul Ring. I don't have a land drop this turn, but I have Factor Fiction. And so once my opponent actually puts a tapped land into play, I Factor Fiction. You see Dark Confidant there, but it goes in the pile I don't take, so it doesn't really play a role this game. Anyway, so this turn my opponent taps out for Chromatic Lantern, and that is all the window I need for a nice, juicy Mind Twist, followed by Winter Orb. You notice we got Humility, Mind Twist uh, over there, which could be in my deck, but then we also have Mind Slaver, Sphinx's Revelation, Call the Gatewatch. Cards I don't play. Sphinx's I can see arguably. Call the Gateway I think is pretty meh. I guess it lets you get a turn, you call into a Jace and then you Jace, and I suppose that's something, but I don't know about all that. And Mind Slaver I just think is way too slow, way too slow. But that's just me. At any rate, he scoops it up. So we'll go to game 2. And I have to mulligan. I put the card on top because the top card's Brainstorm. So I'm planning to, with all the fetches and stuff I have. So I go ahead and play a first turn bird because I want to play over versus using Imperial Seal. I'd rather play mana that won't always work. Unfortunately, it takes a turn to get operational. Unfortunately, my opponent has Swords to Plowshares. And then Workshop Mana Vaults into Chalice. So I take a kind of risky, I brainstorm hoping to find an answer for Chalice and brainstorm right into a Nature's Claim. I felt like I would have to Imperial Seal if I hadn't found that claim. But now that I have it, he's stuck on 2 mana plus a shop with nothing to shop out. So I go ahead and just test the waters with Rashmi, and it resolves, which is fantastic. So now every time I play a card, I'm going to draw in response. So I'm going to Imperial Seal here, but of course I draw in response, and then that information allows me to best select which card I want to seal for. And since I drew Feast and Famine, I actually throw a Winter Orb down, and the card that I went and fetched is a card that's going to support me pushing the Feast or Famine out. Now what I drew, so I go get Force of Will, and what I'm hoping is to sword into a land or mana source that'll let me actually equip it this turn, and I do, which is hilarious. So Rashmi right there just completely backbreaking. I'm about to hit him with the Sword of Feast and Famine. He's going to discard a card. He's going to go down to 2 cards, same as me, except he doesn't have Rashmi. I get to untap all my lands. He's fighting through an orb. And then, of course, on his turn, I would have enough mana to cast a Force of Will, or I could even cast a Rift. Worse for him, though, on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So after I untap all my lands this turn, I would cast Tasigur for 1 mana, removing my graveyard from the game. And then on his turn, for 5, I can still cast Force of Will and draw a card off Rashmi. And then it just gets insanely, so much worse from there that I think he was 100% right to scoop. And obviously he thought so as well. So anyway, this time I'm playing against Krenko, and I have to mulligan to 3, and I see it, the top card of my library is blue, so I kept this crazy mulligan with no blue, hoping that my top card would produce blue, and it does, because I've figured out how I'm going to recover from this absolutely atrocious draw, and that is, I'm going to Mystical Tutor for Imperial Seal. How horrible is that? Horrible. Just horrible. Except it lets me play Necro right now, and I'd rather have Demonic Tutor still in the deck and pay 2 life to do it, so it made more sense to me to go get Imperial Seal than it did to go get Demonic Tutor, because with Necro, Imperial Seal is like a 2-turn, it's quite slow, so now I have the opportunity to potentially draw a Demonic. So anyway, recovered, he plays a Goblin King, so I go ahead and play a Arbor that I can't use, and then Ancient Tomb into a Winter Orb. The problem is, although I'm getting control, so he Vandal Blasts the orbs. Although I'm getting control, I am dying, and I am taking a ton of damage. So I'm down to 12. So I go ahead and play my commander right here, along with an Arbor Elf, and Necro some more, so now I'm down to 9. He Chaos Warps my commander and goes face again, so I'm down to 5. I have a Sylvan Library that he Chaos Warped me into, literally doing nothing over there. But I am able to sword away his Goblin King, and then Eternal Witness my Winter Orb. He goes for Wheel of Fortune to get the orb out of my hand. I Unified Will to counter it. And at 3 life against a Goblin deck, he concedes with 5 cards in hand. And I thought that was pretty cool. The Eternal Witness is there to protect me from his Goblin. Or if he had tried to activate Mutavault and finish me off that turn. And then I will sort of Fire and Ice away his Goblin either way. So actually he would have been wise to have attacked here. But he doesn't realize this, of course, but I have Future Sight and Rashmi along with Yawgmoth's Will, so Most likely the play here would have been to will and then Mystical Tutor into some kind of either defensive card or disruption card, so either Mystical for Mind Twist or a counter like Forbid, and then draw it off the Fire and Ice, and then slowly because I wouldn't really be, I don't get any more cards, but I can draw off of the sword, get my commander out, and then eventually play Rashni and then start drawing extra cards there. Plus I have a Future Sight where I'm going to be able to basically ignore the fact that I'm necro locked. And so even though he didn't see any of that, he had seen enough and he gave up. So that was pretty awesome game. So now I'm playing against Doretti. My top card was a Trigon Predator, and since it's Doretti, even though I don't really want a Trigon Predator in this opening hand, I do decide to keep. But he doesn't have a fast hand, and I've got a turn 2 Crucible. So I Crucible into a Breeding Pool, taking damage, cast Puritan, and he Pyroblasts it. I am so glad to see that, because I'm thinking Trigon's going to wreck his day. Rather, instead, he draws a card and just concedes. So I have no idea what he was doing over there, but, obviously the next turn, I think you can see it as well. I was going to replay my land from the graveyard, go get a Bayou, tap for 5, cast Garrick, untap 2 of my lands, which I'd had 1 floating at that point. Tap those 2 lands and cast Trigon. So it would have been Garrick into Trigon with a Witness ready to go in case he had removal. I was in really good shape there, which I guess he wasn't was the problem, and so he gave up. So here I'm playing against the mono white commander that fetches equipment. And at this time I was running Skull Clamp, but I'm not running Skull Clamp either. I had Dark Confidant and Skull Clamp, but I'm playing neither one at this point. I do think probably if you're running Confidant, you probably want to run Clamp just because you might need to actually get the Confidant off the board. Anyway, so I get a really fast Lotus into Tasigur, and then from there, I'm going to Snapcaster during my upkeep and Vampiric Tutor so that I can draw into Necropotence. So this game's just completely absurd, right? I mean, he's played his 4th land, and I'm just doing gross plays. So he actually equips, his guy makes him a 3/3, gets to fetch a land. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to trade, I've used Snapcaster up anyway, so I'm going to trade Snappy and Llanowar for his guy, because I really don't want anything on the board on his side. And from here I play Glen Elendra. I've got mana for counters. I can actually counter twice. I can remand or condescend, and then I can sack Glen as well. So there's no coming out of this. I guess he realizes that and he just scoops it up. It's just crazy like how fast this deck just generates gross amounts of card advantage. And of course, does it while throwing an Urnam Jin into play that's also a Jam Day Tome. It's just pretty gross. So anyway, my opponent's playing this new white, blue, black, red commander, and since he plays a tri-land tapped, I strip mine on the first turn, something that I might not normally do. So turn 2, I actually Mystical Tutor for mana drain, so he now knows I have a mana drain, but he has a strip mine, so I go ahead and fetch in response, and then Vampiric Tutor. I have to fetch in response so I don't shuffle away the thing I tutored for. So he gets a Mirror Smith out, but I've Vampiric Tutored for Mana Crypt and use it to cast Trigon Predator, because I'm going to go after his mana. Since his commander makes flyers, I figure that his commander is also an artifact creature, but I want to nerf his mana, and luckily for me, he isn't able to actually play it on the next turn despite having enough mana to theoretically do so. So on my turn, I'm able to cast Garrick, untap my lands, and then cast my commander for 1 mana. He goes for a Baleful Strix, but he's really having a tough time missing land drops over there, so I'm going to mana drain the Strix so I can push with Predator and take out his Dimer Signet. And then my game plan here is off the mana drain here. I'm going to Yogg Will and play a Strip Mine. So the goal here is Yogg Will, replay Strip Mine, kill his red source, attack with Trigon Predator, kill his Dimer Signet, recast Vampiric Tutor, and somewhere in there, well, and then on his turn, I think activate Tasigur. I'd probably make an elephant while I'm at it, I don't know. But at any rate, my opponent gives up. It's too much, too fast. So, I now have, I'm playing against Rasputin. So I'm playing against a blue-white control deck that's probably a combo deck, and I have the dreaded turn 2 Sylvan Library, the one of the banes of the control deck's existence. He's gonna quickly get his commander, but because I have Sylvan, I'm able to pay 4 life to keep a spell, and I let a land go and then shuffle it away. And I play Rec Sage to slow him down, so he won't be able to. He's 1 away from playing his commander, and that 1 mana matters because I'm able to quickly um, set myself up here. Of course, using Sylvan, I'm not going to continuously pay life because I've got to. I have Necro in my hand, so I've used Sylvan enough, and now I'm running Necropotence out. I've tutored for a mana drain, so he tries a Restoration Angel in response, so I go ahead and mana drain that. And then what I do is I Mystical Tutor for Force of Will. So now I'm gonna over Necro just to make sure I get a blue card. And at this point, his commander is 6, so if he wanted to play his commander next turn, I'm just gonna force it. If he plays anything else that's potent, of course I'm gonna force it. And if he doesn't, then well, I'm playing Necropotence with a Force of Will in hand, and it's pretty hard to get through that. And of course, if he did nothing or only played his commander or whatever, I get to follow up with a Mind Twist off the Mana Drain mana. So this is all bad for him here. I did have a Mana Crypt and a Necropotence out, but I was fine. And with that in mind, I think he scoops her up. So now I'm playing against Red Dragon, running Thraxamunder, and I have to mulligan, but I mulligan into a slow hand, so that makes it okay. Anyway, I get a turn 2 Bloom Tender, though. That's definitely good. And I have a Workshop, but I just need Artifact mana. He meanwhile, has crazy Artifact mana. He's got Mox Diamond into Rakdos Key Rune. I'm not sure about Rakdos Key Rune, but hey, Mox Diamond's pretty good. Anyway, it is Artifact mana, though, and I rip a Sword of Feast and Famine off the top. So we're going to go Famine, Equip, Smash, kill your, take a card out of your hand, untap, and then I am ready to go with a Condescend if he taps out precisely. And if he doesn't have a Condescend target, I've got this Reclamation Sage here who really wants to eat a Mox Diamond and give me another 2 for 0. He taps out for Damnation but doesn't have a land. Rock on. I am going to Condescend for 1. And with Condescend for 1 on the stack and only 3 cards left in his hand, he scoops him up, which is fantastic. So my next turn I was going to play a land, cast Rec Sage, kill his Mox Diamond, smash him with the Bloom Tender, untap all my lands again, and then more than likely equip probably just equip the Reclamation Sage. Actually, yeah, equip the Rec Sage. But anyway, good stuff. So quick beats, and that was not a fast hand, actually. Not until I drew that sword. So I'm playing against Bird Turgler. I see what he did there. He's playing red, white, black, blue using the dual command, the buddy commanders. So anyway, I've got first turn Elf, second turn Chromatic Lantern Elf, which is pretty insane. He got third turn Trinket Mage though, so, and he goes and fetches himself a Mox Opal, which is weird. So I just Vampiric Tutor during upkeep for what I need in order to natural order Trastodon with Mana Drain backup, and with Trastodon coming out to eat all of his artifacts plus his swamp and leave him with just a lowly Mox Opal in his hand and whatever he might muster for mana, he scoops it up. But what's insane is that I have this. What's crazy about this is that next turn I get to play my commander and still have mana drain up. Like, commander's just Tasigur's so dumb, and then I get to of course start drawing extra cards. So it's so dumb in a fun and good way. I think this deck's a little more fragile than Aloro, but it's fun when you want to still play control, but you want to play beatdown, and for whatever reason don't want to play Edric, or maybe you just like playing Mind Twist and Demonic Tutor like I do, Yawgmoth's Will. Anyway, so I'm playing Daragaz the Igniter, and I have a hand that the first hand I didn't like, but the second hand has Soul Ring. It's got acceleration, so it's certainly keepable. It doesn't have any card draw. It doesn't have any defense. It has nothing but mana. But with Tasigur, that's okay. My top card is actually, having said that, my top card was Sword of Fire and Ice, so I put it right on top. Turn 2, Dryad Arbor, Priest of Titania. Turn 3, Sword of Fire and Ice. And I decided to strangely equip my Priest here. I think that was dumb, but it was a choice I made. I didn't equip the bird because the bird produces blue, and I don't really actually have a blue source here, but attacking with a priest, as soon as I draw an elf, is pretty goofy. Anyway, I am able to brainstorm, though, into some blue, but all I can really do is just cast Tasigur and get some more elves down. You get some Vampiric Hex Mage, but So I move sword and then I move it again, realizing I had made a mistake because I can put it on the bird, take out his Vampire Hex Mage, Mind Twist his hand away, and at that point, my opponent gives up. So, pretty straightforward game there, very easy. And I had Snappy over here who was going to come down and give me another Brainstorm, or possibly Mind Twist him again, which is kind of cool. Here I'm playing against Black Drill 1, hopefully not intended to be something dirty there, but probably is. Anyway, so he's playing Rashmi, who I think is the most fair of the green commanders, and that is to say, is not very green-blue commanders, and is not actually very fair at all, quite frankly. But um, your commander shouldn't be. If your commander's too fair, you're doing something wrong. So anyway, I get to counter his turn 3 play, Trinket Mage into a Winter Orb, and then hit him with Trinket Mage, get a bird down. He's got 2 Temple of the False God, so why don't we just go ahead and kill his command tower there and leave him with 2 lands that don't do anything. His mana base is so horrible and greedy. He's got colorless land that doesn't work, colorless land that doesn't work, colorless land that costs 4 mana to activate. It's just awful. So, fine with me. I'm just going to lay the Tasigur beats. I have the orb, but of course, I probably just want to draw cards whenever I can, so that's what I'll be doing with Tasigur. He's finally at the discard point. Still not. Now, I make a small mistake, I think. I ended up exiling Condescend when I played Tasigur to prevent myself from having to tap 1 extra land under the orb. But that removed the only card I could have targeted with Snapcaster, so that was an error. But I figured with Tasigur out that I would be using Snapcaster in short order, given that Tasigur, of course, fills the graveyard. I'll go ahead and stop watching. It looks like that game's going to bug out, but the bottom line is my opponent basically gets his teeth kicked in, and when I point out his mana base is extremely risky, not stupid, but definitely risky. He actually plays 1 more colorless land in that game, so like 5 colorless lands. He says, well, I don't usually play against, well, you did have land destruction. I'm like, well, Strip Mine is a card you probably should expect in this format, but, you know, hey, everyone's got to do what they got to do. So anyway, next guy is playing black, green, red, white. Everything but the best color in the format, or game, depending on how you look at it. I've got this hand here, so I'm definitely going to keep, but it's a little awkward of a hand to develop. And my opponent gives up. Didn't realize that was going to happen. Apologize. Looked like it might have been an interesting game to play out. All right, last game here, though. I do have Potato Mania. So he is playing Fenax, God of Deception, the Millstone legendary god blue-black commander. And I've got a fantastic draw with an early Crucible that I can ramp into using Finhorn Elves, so we are going to attempt to do exactly that. Plays turn 2 Lightning Greaves, that doesn't kill Elves. Alright, there's the Crucible. He gets a white of Precinct 6, so I just replay my fetch, ignore his creature, Imperial Seal, chill out. Can't really afford to. He tries a Mind Crank. I'm going to go ahead and just mana drain that. The reason being, the card I tutored for was Mind Twist. So I tap all of my mana except for the Misty Rainforest to Mind Twist him. I have a very specific reason for that, and that reason is that we're going to trick him. He sends his white to Precinct 6. I fetch Dryad Arbor and Kacha, dead white, and I just replay Arbor right after using the Crucible. And now I've Tasigur down, and I've got 2 mana untapped, and I've got 4 counter spells in hand. This game might be over. But, hey, he's got 2 lands, so we'll see. Anyway, at the end of his turn, I go ahead and activate Tasigur. So he has to choose between Thran Dynamo and Sword of Fire and Ice. So he gives me Thran Dynamo, which is just going to make using Tasigur that much easier. So I do. End of his turn, having drawn a Force of Will. Use Tasigur again. Probably would have done it anyway. So he had to pick between Drage Hermit and Trinket. He gave me a Hermit. So I go ahead and equip Tasigur's sword. And then with hit him, and with Sword's ability on the stack, I activate Tasigur using Elf and 3 more, all the rest of my lands. He now has to choose between Mana Vault and Trinket Mage. He gives me Trinket. So I cast Trinket into Crypt. Leaving exactly 4 mana up. At the end of his turn, I activate Tasigur yet again. He gives me Mana Vault over Forbid, Cryptic, or Sword of Fire and Ice. Main phase, I activate Tasigur again. He gives me a Winter Orb and throws away a Cryptic and a Fact or Fiction. I play Mana Vault, Drainage Tournament, Winter Orb. Then I hit him with Tasigur and Trinket Mage and untap all my lands under the orb. He plays Daimir Doppelganger, who gives it boots. I'm 5 counterspells in my hand. I'm still not counterspelling that. I don't think it's relevant at all. So upkeep, I go ahead and just tap a bunch of lands, pay for Drainage Tournament, and then main phase. I think we're gonna bug out. Oh no, I think did I draw? No, we're gonna bug out here, but basically, I believe I attack with it. I think what happened is I actually had Witness here, and I play Witness, and I get the Sword of Fire and Ice or something. I can't exactly remember. But guess what? As it turns out, from this board position against that board position, it turns out that you can indeed win a game of Magic. So sorry for the bug out, but that's exactly what happens. He's not able to do anything, and I run him over. I would have liked to have shown you the very first game. It was me playing Aurora and my opponent playing Tasigur, and it was fantastic. And it bugged out on me. So I apologize for that, but I won't get to show you. I won't get to show you that game either. Stupid, 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 worthless, almost worthless Magic Online client. Worse than version 3, uglier and works and does not work as well, and is super super frustrating. So oh well. Anyway, this is the deck list. I hope that you guys enjoyed the pacing. I hope you liked seeing the new content. I had said quite a while back that I would put together a Tasigur deck in response to some requests, but I didn't really feel like, I don't know, I didn't really feel like that I had a good enough sense of what to do before I could put together a deck that I'd be happy with. Plus, I was missing a lot of cards. So the first thing I did was I rebuilt Edric, played that deck for a while, refreshed my memory on what it's like to turn creatures sideways and actually use the red zone, and then use that information to try to decide which cards from Edric I could pull in order to actually adapt into a Tasigur deck that would be hopefully better or at least comparable to the Edric deck rather than worse, because I don't like the idea of you know, if I'm gonna try a new commander, that's one thing. But if I'm gonna try a commander that's going to just be worse than other things I play, that's something else. I don't think that's super interesting. Tasigur might be a little bit worse than Oloro or Edric, perhaps, um, or not. It's not entirely clear, and because it's not clear, I think that's probably a good sign. One of the coolest things about it, though, is you get to run Mishra's Workshop in a Gaia's Cradle deck, and I always think that's got to be pretty cool. But also the fact that you get, you know, just the black power cards like Mind Twist, Will, Necro, Tutor, Tutor, and Tutor. Those are the cards in black that I think are just the most insane. Um, I don't have a good sweep in here, but I don't have one in Edric either, other than Cyclonic Rift. Like, but I do have opposition, just like in Edric. So even though I don't have, I'm not playing. I could play Toxic Deluge in Tasigur, and I'm not. I think it's probably okay because I don't even have access to a card like that in Edric. I'm a little low on creature removal in here. I don't have as many control magic effects. I don't have as many clone effects. I don't have the guy that untaps Forest, who's kind of cool, but only when he can attack and draw a card on turn 3 with Edric helping him out. And there are things that had to make the cut or didn't make the cut, but hopefully I did it wisely, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I do think that Ponder and Preordain probably belong in the deck, especially since they kind of charge Tasigur and make mulligans less likely. But I have no idea what to pull to move those cards in here. I don't know how to fit them in at all. I mean, what card would I not want in this deck that's worth a Ponder or a Preordain? I don't know. Anyway, if you have any ideas, definitely look forward to them in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.